Hello, I'm David, and this is Virtual Recommendations. And today we're going to start out with recommending a Sony PSVR. I recommend the Sony PSVR because if you already have a PlayStation, doesn't matter how old, like I have a secondhand from a pawn shop launch, 500 gig launch title, ancient PlayStation that's dying and still runs VR. So it's honestly it's the one that you're gonna have the least issue with. If I'm 100% with you, not to say the HTC Vive or Oculus Rift are going to give you any issues. It's just with them you're able to mod, and with mods runs the potential of messing with your computer and or game and and stuff like that. But on top of that, you know, like there was a reviewer I follow who was talking about how he bought like a $60 program that basically didn't do what he wanted it to do. It didn't actually convert things. Not the point. Uh, I'm kind of an idiot, so I might get sidetracked. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so honestly, if you don't want to like reprogram stuff and do all that nonsense, you just rather a VR game be already pre-programmed for you, like my dumbass, then PSVR all the way. I actually recommend though with the PS4 Pro because you'll get the greatest draw distance and the best graphics. However, if like me you just have like that bulky piece of shit from launch, it will still work. Like you're still not going to have any issues. It's going to be a little shorter draw distance, but it'll still be an exquisite time. Yeah, I love VR because it's ultimately the difference between seeing your game unfold across the room as like a picture on a screen versus having it unfold before your very eyes and interacting with the world around you. It's surreal. It's amazing. It's like the difference between seeing a picture of a sunset and actually being there on the cliffside to see the sunset, you know? However, my very first recommendation out of the gate, before you even decide PSVR, Oculus, what have you, I'd actually recommend that you Google VR arcades near me because they're actually more common than most people would think. Like I personally thought it'd be in Toronto, but it's actually in my city just outside Toronto. So Toronto probably has their own as well because they're a much bigger, more important city. The one in my town, in my city, is called Control B, and it was like $25 a person. So I took my mom. Yeah, that's right. Took my mom to play some VR, shoot some zombies in first person, the firstest of persons, because I love my mom, and we both love killing zombies. Fucking judge me. I dare you. I don't give a shit. There's a good way to get some interactability. Anyway. Not the point. I'd recommend it though, because for one, you know, $50 for you and a buddy to find out that you can play VR or can't play VR versus $500 for the headset alone in PSVR to find out that you can't. You know, it's a much better difference. My second recommendation out of the gate would have to be that you get the either Skyrim bundle or the Blood and Truth bundle. Now, personally, a year and a half ago when I got mine, Blood and Truth wasn't out yet, so the bundle wasn't a thing. So my choices were PSVR Worlds or Skyrim. And even though I didn't want Skyrim, because I'd already played it on PS3, PS4, and now on PSVR, one, it was still fun. It was still unbelievably fun. It absolutely added so much more to the experience to be able to have it the firstest of persons. And so that was fun. That was absolutely fun having Skyrim. But the locomotion and the world, it can be it can give you a bit of a headache and a bit of a stomach ache, especially since they start the game with you on a cart traveling that way while looking this way. That part, even a year and a half in, when I go back and like start a new game, that part still like kind of bothers me a little bit. I can get through it now and still keep my headset on, but it's still, I'll be 100%. It still bothers me a little bit. Blood and Truth, though, I find they have like the newer games, like Blood and Truth, have the locomotion really, really down. So I'd recommend that above all else. But you want the Skyrim / Blood and Truth because there is version 1.0 and version 2.0 and quite possibly 3.0, but I'm not 100% on that one. I don't know if they updated a second time for that, or a third time for that bundle. Second time. But with this one, the 2.0, you have the PS4 charging port for your Move controllers. And your headset is much more convenient. The button to slide it in and out is on the right side. On the right side, on the top. You just grip the top and bottom. You can do it with one hand. There's a button in the back, which is nice to push and then expand. Power button, center, bottom, and volume control on the side. And I'm given to understand that everything on the PSVR version 1 is a lot more inconvenient and stuff, like a little wheel thing on the cord. Like that's not going to mess up. Yeah, and the third bit of advice, the third thing I'd recommend is don't be afraid to just take your time, going from non-VR to into VR, there's a little bit of an adjustment period where your stomach and your brain might disagree with your eyes and like what's happening and what you're interpreting. Like for me, when I got mine, it was a struggle. Cause like I called EB Games, or GameStop for the Americans out there, and was like, do you have one? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm literally getting in the car right now. I'm gonna be there in like 5 minutes. This is okay. Click. I get there, and it's not there. They didn't have one at all. They told me they had one. They didn't have one. Then I went next door to Microplay, which is like the discounted GameStop, GameStop Lite, if you will, and they wanted $600 for Gen 1 before taxes, so plus taxes, and Gen 2 after taxes was $550 for me when I did finally get it in Woodstock. Had to go out of town to finally track one down, but I did track one down, obviously, and then spent the $550 on it, and then I got home and I was like, I didn't just go through all that just to like play for 5 minutes, and Skyrim was my only game I had, so I very stupidly played for like 9 hours and made myself horribly sick, like horribly sick. I went like horseback riding, plus like the wagon thing, plus my horse headbutted me into a waterfall that led to a river that I had to swim through, and then Meridia. And anyone who's played Skyrim, all I have to say is Meridia, and you're like, yeah, that would probably fuck with somebody who's just starting out. That'd probably be a bad decision, and it didn't even click until she sucked me into the atmosphere, and then I was like, yeah, this was stupid. This was really, really, really dumb. And that was the end of the night. That was the point where I couldn't, especially after she flashbangs you and then drops you. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm done. I'm out. But after I did get used to it, I go back to it all the time because honestly, it's now the second biggest, but was for the longest time the biggest game you could get, and it's fun. As much as I didn't want it, it's been great having it. But yeah, don't forget to go slow. Really take your time, especially if you start to feel sick. Don't be afraid to be like, yeah, that's just enough for now. splash a little water on your face. My extra recommendations are just for like little quality of life improvements. While you're in VR, it's nice having a fan on you, especially if you're at locomotion, like as far as locomotion, right? So a lot of games have teleportation to start you out with to ease you in, and then after a while you can actually like physically walk, not yourself, but like there's a button. And then having the fan on you, help keep you cool, help you stay in there a little longer by making you more comfortable. But on top of that, helps with your brain and just the disconnect. Because, like, when you're walking, you usually do feel like a little bit of wind on you. So that fan helps, bring you in the world, right? It helps immerse you. Yeah, immerse you. And then also, and don't feel ashamed, right? Like I'll admit, feel a little shame, but don't be afraid to just like, dance a little bit. Like just, even if you're just like kind of just bop, like you're in in 1930s cartoon, right? Because ultimately the biggest cause of vertigo is oftentimes motion seen but not felt, or felt but not seen. So it helps ease all of that and then immerse you in the game more. Like when you're walking, if you actually kind of swing your hands a little, it's just what I personally recommend. It's up to everyone else to do what they want at the end of the day, but hopefully any bit of this advice has been even a little bit helpful, and hopefully some of the stupidity has been entertaining. And I meant to quickly show a couple of pictures, which I'm going to edit and post, of course, right about now. 1, 2, 3. And these are the games I'd recommend you kind of start with. You start with more like the standy, and then some of the more teleporty, and then work your way into like the vehicle-ish. It's like super hot, because I like me some like shooters and stuff, but also there's like I Expect You to Die, Keep Talking and No One Dies, Vacation Sim, stuff like that. They're really good at when you're first starting, because it's you move, it moves, and then kind of work your way more to like the Skyrim, where you teleport or walk, and then work your way into like flying ships and stuff like that. Yeah, that's my recommendations. Hope you enjoyed.